live from Nubian Human in the Anacostia Arts Center in historic Anacostia, Southeast Washington, D.C. And this is the Neighborish livecast. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Super Dave, a.k.a. Mr. Incredible. And with me, as always, is one of the dopest individuals in the DMV, and on the East Coast, in the world.
Damn.
I give you a lot, Jay.
You do. I appreciate it.
He's the SE3 representative.
Hey.
DC's native son.
Hey.
Jay, son, what's up, brother?
Hello, Dave.
It's always good to have you in the building with me. And we have a great show for you today because sitting directly to my right is a good gentleman, a good brother. I'm trying to come up with a good superlative to use. So anyway, let's just run down the list of a few things.
Oh shit.
He's
got a list, Carl.
Yeah,
you got a list.
He's a life coach, a workforce developer, a political strategist, former Ward 5 rep in D.C., and I also happen to know that he's a graduate of Eastern Senior High School.
E-ball.
For sure.
He's a husband, a father, and a pretty dope actor. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl Thomas is with us today. We're so glad to have him in the building. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, it's good. It's great to have you here, man. Now, elephant in the room, you do share a name with a 90s
Summer Rain
singer.
Yeah.
I know you probably heard all the jokes and stuff.
Every day of my life.
Yeah,
every day of my life. Even in the pandemic.
Man, people like, are you emotional?
Yeah, even over the phone, man. Even over the phone.
Even over the phone.
Yeah, over Zoom, everything.
So, yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you about, because you've been doing a lot for the city and for this area for a long time, man. I'm excited to get into it, talk about your journey a little bit and the great things that you've been doing and you are doing. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, there's a few things going on in the city, in the country, in the world that we need to talk about.
Oh, yeah. What's going on, Dave?
We're going to talk about it right now.
Okay.
So September is, before I start, if my cadence, if my speech sounds a little off, so what I'm doing, when I edit the show, I listen to it over and over again, and I noticed that I say, you know, a lot, or either and so I'm trying to make a conscious effort to cut that out of my speech. And so, you know, if I sound a little weird, that's probably what it is. I'm just letting you know. So if you hear me say it, just jab me in the jaw. No, I'm just playing. Don't do that. But yeah, man. So September is National Suicide Prevention Month. With all the things that have been happening this year, from the pandemic to, you know, social justice issues with the protests and riots and police brutality and stuff, to the political tense election season, to just all the things that are going on, there's definitely been an increase in the amount of stress that people have been dealing with on a regular basis. Along with the well-documented effects that prolonged stress can have to physical health, there's also significant mental health issues that can be exacerbated or even initially brought on by stress. So the CDC released a study that says during June 24th to the 30th, 2020, U.S. adults reported considerable elevated adverse mental health conditions. Younger adults, racially ethnic minorities, essential workers, and underpaid caregivers reported experiencing disproportionately worse mental health outcomes, including substance abuse and elevated suicidal ideations. Now, there has been a positive progress made over the past few years in dispelling the myths around mental health in our community. You know, working on more conversation about these issues that will otherwise remain buried, have increased more solution-based conversations about mental health. So that's why, you know, every week I always ask, like, when we talk about different topics, I ask my guests and I ask, you know, my panel, like, how they deal with stuff. Like, how do you kind of compartmentalize stuff to keep your sanity and keep yourself together? We had a couple of good answers. Like last week, Yvonne, shout out to Yvonne, she talked about unplugging from the matrix, basically, from social media, from TV, from everything, just taking some time, taking a mental health break, and that seems to be, you know, the consensus that people use a lot to try to get away from all of the craziness and try to just keep their sanity. Are there any specific ways that y'all, you know, see, I keep saying, you know, look, every time I say it now, y'all listen to it, right? Like he said it like 30 times already. Anyway, but are there any specific things that you do to unplug? I'm gonna start with you, Carl. Is there anything that you know, do to keep your to keep your sanity?
I'm glad you asked this. This is probably like for me the biggest portion of who I am now. I have found that meditation is the most amazing thing that I could have introduced into my life.
Wow.
That the answers to the difficulty, right? The anxiety, but even the negative thoughts, whatever down thoughts of yourself, all of those things actually stem from a sense of self that's rooted outside, externally, right? Like you're comparing yourself to nobody, right? To an idea constantly, 100% idea constantly. No mistakes are involved in that, right? Like that's not a true comparison. The only comparison that you can make is to the you that you've been before, right? And like your goal is to continue to move forward in that comparison. You know, the you yesterday was slightly different from the you today, hopefully. And if that's the case, then you're adequately managing from day to day every stress, every difficulty, every obstacle that comes your way via the map that you have inside internally. So like it's been challenging and amazing.
That's dope. That's a great answer to that question. Like, yeah, you came prepared. Carl was ready.
No. Actually, you asked a great question for me.
Well, I do
like
that
you
from
must
time
have
to
researched really well.
You see this nigga got a notepad over there.
I see that.
Well, I used to do it on the phone. but I
Dave ain't
prefer,
playing no games out here in these streets.
No, it's obvious that he was at Easton taking notes.
Right.
Annotating. I didn't annotate at Easton, but
Still got C's and D's now, but I did all right. But yeah, that is a great answer. And Jay, I know I've asked you a few times, but what do you do? Like, cause I know just somebody who's as empathetic as you are to like a lot of the things going on in society, to like that you both are. But I know that you know you feel a lot of things very deeply, and so it can affect you. So what do you do to kind of deal with that?
Well, you know, I do a whole bunch of shit, but I think Carl is absolutely right about meditation. That's definitely an integral part of, you know, techniques. Cause you know, I think also my, as Yvonne would say, my live it instead of my diet.
Yeah, she said diet has the word die in it.
Right.
So it's called live it. I was
Amen.
like, that's kind of dope.
So you know, but yeah, and then movement, like moving my body. So it's like, not even like quote unquote like working out, but just like making sure my body's always in some type of motion. And that, yeah, those are things that kind of help me, my mental. Well, you know, I typically, if I feel stress, like I immediately try to get to the root of it. And so that's why it's like a myriad of things for me. Like sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's meditation, sometimes it's prayer, sometimes it's weed, sometimes it's touch from a woman. You know, so it you know what I'm saying, it's there are many things that I think can heal the body and address anxiety and stress and, you know, the dysfunction that we've normalized in society. I think, you know, we attempt to do things that trigger things within ourselves, like Carl was saying, like, you know, finding yourself and, you know, and breaking down what has been indoctrinated into your thinking of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to feel. It's like, yeah, you gotta figure that shit out yourself.
precisely.
Yeah.
It's a combination of things, I think, that you have to design. And then you have to look at what's missing, right? So the reason that the meditation is the most important thing for me currently is because it was missing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's what I wasn't doing. And so I'm maxing out on everything else, right? And I'm trying to figure out why I'm still struggling with everything that I take on from others, right? Like, well, I'm not processing any of that. I'm just wearing it constantly because my shoulder's broad, right? Like,
Right.
and I think we have a tendency to think because all through our childhood they talked about how strong we were, right? I know all, for the three of us, right? Like we were strong as an ox. So like you got broad shoulders, you can carry anything, and that stretches beyond the physical, kind of realm. To your, it seeps into your mind. Like, this is what I can do. I can take on any task. Doesn't matter how difficult, how heavy. I don't have to release it. I don't have to let it out. I don't have to figure out a way to compartmentalize it so that I can carry more, so that I can increase capacity, right? So the meditation, visualization, and just really dealing in the frequencies, understanding the frequencies, has helped me to control myself, which is the most important thing, really.
Yeah, let me ask y'all this, because I'm not really, I have different like means of dealing with stuff. First of all, I have, I call it like, there's a lot of different names.
Do you have notes about your shit?
It seems like
you.
Well, no, I just had a little bit of.
He organized his thoughts,
nigga.
but he didn't email us. I sent him a text. I asked him, "What do I need to look at?" And he said nothing. He said, "You're good."
No, because I'm gonna ask you the questions. I just want you to answer candidly.
He's literally got 6 pages of notes. I'm cheating over here.
It's only 4.
All right. But anyway, so I, it's been called different things. I think most religious people consider it serenity. The serenity prayer. Lord, give me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now,
Hey, that was fucking good, Dave, because it's hard for me to remember that joint, and you didn't even look at your notes.
Well, I didn't write it. Well,
that was a good job, Dave.
That lets you know he really be practicing.
I know, right? I just ain't want to get up here and George Bush the joint.
No,
right? Fool me once.
Shame can't fool a shame twice. Yeah.
But yeah, they asked for 3 things in that little prayer. It's like serenity, courage, and wisdom. But the reason it's called serenity is because that's the most important part of it. It's like understanding that there are some things you're not going to be able to change, and accepting it and being okay with it, especially when, like you said, we've been taught and it's been indoctrinated into us. We can handle anything. We can do anything with it. Certain things that's going to be, what they are. And we don't have to, once you realize that it's something that's not moving, you don't have to keep concerning yourself with it, basically. Let it go. That's a big part of mine. But you guys, you talked about the meditation. And so I wanted, because meditation, from what I understand, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, it's different for every individual, what you specifically do. So is it like a specific routine? Is it something different every time? Or do you like sit down? Is it like, what's love got to do with it? Numb your whole Renge kill? Is it that deep? Or,
You got it, Carl?
Oh, yeah, I can get it. Yeah. So for me, it's a combination of things. It depends on what I need in the moment. Sometimes it's heavily regimented, because that's what I need. I'm seeking guidance from self. I'm seeking support around something or not. Answers, right? Like, those are things that I would specifically be looking. That would be more nam yam reggae yo, right? Like, not that I say that, but that, whatever chant, whatever you use to center yourself, that I do that, right? And then it's headed towards something specific, right? I'm looking at this answer, that answer, this need, that need. Okay. But then sometimes it's just routine, right? Like, I know that every day, no matter what, I'm going to find 20 minutes to meditate, period. Like, it's the most important thing that I can do for me. And yeah.
Yeah. So when you do it, is it just like a moment of silence, or just reflection?
Well, again, it depends. Sometimes I use a frequency to kind of boost my experience or the depth of my meditation. When you look at my story later, you'll see on my way here, I meditated while driving to 842. That's a brain power frequency. Just kind of helps me center my thoughts so that I don't say and you know what I'm saying?
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that you haven't once. Jay did a few times, but you haven't once.
Well, I mean, it's truly a habit of mine that I found this one particular frequency keeps me keyed in on where I want to go and eliminates all of the extras because those are distractions in your brain.
Exactly.
Like that's like a little speed bump. Like you don't need those.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, wow, I just got some knowledge. And here comes our feminine energy. I just did it. But anyway, here comes our feminine energy. Is the door open, Jay? You just gonna leave her?
It look open. Open the door. Push. There you go. She's about to make me get up. Hey.
Good morning.
She's coming in hot, ladies.
Coming in hot.
I know you know a lot of people in the area. Have you all ever met Carl? Well, and then it's tough when you got a mask on too. You've been walking around like the mall or something and see somebody and you looking at them like, pull your mask. Do I know you?
Well, people always recognize me with the mask on.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I never recognize anyone with the mask on.
Right. I'm looking at people in the store.
Yeah, I'm the rudest person in the pandemic. I don't know you, bro.
I'm gonna keep walking. Hey, what's up? All right.
You got to be like,
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Patrice Fruitfit Jones
Fruitfit.
in the building. She coming in hot.
I don't believe it. What happened? I got lost.
Oh.
You got lost from Suitland to Southeast?
No, I wasn't at home, and all the construction with the new bridge. I took a wrong turn, and it just took me. I was just like,
A whole
Well,
different.
it's all right. You're here now.
Is she on?
Welcome.
Is she on?
I don't know.
You got to turn the mic on too? Okay.
So I'm glad you're here because the next thing I was going to talk about is based on you. But right now we were talking about mental health. How September is Suicide Awareness Month, and we're talking about mental health and how we relax and how we relax and detox. I've been trying to stop myself from saying so much because when I edit the show I listen to it and every time it's like a hammer hitting me in the head. Now when I hear it I'm like, oh man. So we were talking about ways that we relax, and I always ask you guys how you relax, how you detox and things like that. So Jay was talking about his, and Carl mentioned meditation and talked about some of the benefits of it. What are some of the ways that you kind of relax and detox and decompress from all of life's ills?
Go by the water. It's like the water like is soothing. So it's always the water. It's getting away from everything that binds us to worldly things and completely disconnecting. Because it's like that saying says in the memes that we see, it says you can't heal in whatever place that hurts you. And not even really hurt, even if you look deeper, and just the things that disconnect you from your own frequency and your own way of thinking and your own way of just being. If you're still around those things, you can't properly, be still and meditate. So you got to disconnect yourself and like go to what soothes you.
So when you say go to the water, is it specific bodies of water? Can you just fill the bathtub up and stand beside it? Whatever.
I mean, sometimes it is a bath. It's a healing bath. Like, I don't know if you guys take healing baths, but you can put, leaves in the bath or herbs, whatever you want to put in. I know guys don't really take
Carl, you
baths.
look like you do that type of shit, don't you?
I've never took a healing bath.
I do.
See, I knew it. I see.
Yeah.
How you know that?
But then he has,
I could just look at the nigga.
influence too.
And hit, once you hit it, you ain't heard Carl talk yet. So once the nigga talk, you be like, oh yeah, that nigga do be taking healing, spiritual baths and shit.
Maybe something else did it. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always like to, because we like to be solution based here on the Neighborish live cast.
Oh, but I had some additions there.
Oh yeah, go ahead. What you got?
I was
Cause you.
going to say something.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead and say something else.
Can you fix it? See, you see how
I know that Jay did not read.
He did not
But
flip.
in his defense, Jay is not in his right mind at this particular moment.
Oh Lord.
He is partaking. And so,
Oh yeah.
yeah, he didn't
So-
move at all. She was like,
I'm
"Can you
gonna
help
take
me with
this
this?"
mask off
He was
so
like,
damn
"Somebody better
bad.
help."
Oh my God.
But go ahead, what you got, Patrice?
So I can't do it. So I was gonna say that in addition to like going to the waters, you can light candles, you can burn frankincense, you can burn incense, whatever speaks to you in the moment. So I was by the water before I came here. It's what I do every morning. It's it's my healing place. But I think it's important for people to know what helps them decompress. Because if you have no idea what helps you decompress, then you're always going to be tense and you're always going to allow everything around you you're going to be held to everything around you. You're going to be held to your timelines. You're going to be held to your job. You're going to be held to those people that pull you in different directions. You're never going to understand what soothes you and what takes you out of that space if you don't know what it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You definitely need to take time, if you haven't already, take time to get an understanding of what puts you in that calm place, what takes it all away for you. So that you can utilize that. It's very important, especially in these times. Like I said, there's so much going on. And I've said in previous shows that everything just feels so heavy right now with everything that's been happening over the past few months. There's so much loss and so much, tragedy, drama, and they try to keep everybody at odds with each other. And so you have to take that time and find a way to take that time to rebalance yourself and
Right.
just stay focused. It will help you tremendously if you take the time to do that. I'm so glad that I'm sitting here with 3 people who obviously do that from time to time to keep themselves balanced
Every
and
day.
focused.
I think it should be something that you require of yourself every day in some
Daily.
capacity.
Yeah. Like Carl, you said like 20 minutes a day, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything less than 20 minutes and you're shortchanging yourself because you'll watch a 30-minute TV show.
Right. And it's so funny how people will make the time to do things that they want to do, but something like this when you should want to do, it's like, I don't have the time. That's the main thing. People say, I don't have the time to focus on that. I got so much I got to do. But they'll stop me. Did you see Game of Thrones over there? So
that's what I did. I cut out TV.
okay. That's becoming more and more popular.
It's
these days.
it was my marriage to the NFL
Okay.
that I think when we fell out, everything else went with it.
That's interesting. I thought you were married to Miriam. I didn't know you.
Well, yeah, but the NFL was my first love. You know what I'm
Understood,
saying? So like
understood,
to divorce her was tough.
Definitely.
But yeah, them people don't care about us. So
Yeah, we talked about that a lot on this show. I think Jay went through a similar process of detoxing from that whole conglomerate, the NFL. Just seeing how they operate and the things that they do, it makes it tough to support. And I say support, but even to watch the games and take in the stuff. I did see the games this past weekend myself. It was. You want to know what happened, or no? You got.
I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm glad that you made it, Patrice. 'Cause,
Yeah.
last week you spoke on it, and a lot of times you have spoke on social media and being careful what you do with social media and how you let it affect you. Well, I don't know if you've heard that Netflix has a documentary out specifically directed to what you're talking about. There is a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma that prompts social media users to rethink Facebook, IG, and other platforms. The 90-minute documentary features interviews with quote-unquote whistleblowers who have worked at companies like Google and Facebook. People like a guy named Tim Kendall, who when asked about the divisive and manipulative influence of social media, replied that he's worried about it causing a civil war. They shine a light on things like election influencing, and targeted marketing, which they ask you if they can use your camera.
And who said this?
Use your,
Who said that?
this guy who used to work for, I think it was Google. His name was Tim Kendall. And
He's like a whistleblower or something?
Yeah, it's in the documentary. So check it out. I haven't seen it.
What's the name of the documentary again?
It's called The Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma. Okay.
Yeah, I just found out about it yesterday when I was researching stories. I was like, oh, I got to check that out, definitely. Because like you said, and I've always known and been suspicious to a certain extent of what's working behind the machine. And they say this documentary really shines a light on it, pulls back that curtain so you can really see a lot of them talk about what's really going on at these places and how it's basically social engineering at its best, at its strongest.
It is.
And
It's
most
not even
influential just
basically,
because they use like addictive things. They work on the psyche, understand the psyche of human nature, and they work on engineering things to keep you focused on it.
Right.
So it's a deep
I
documentary.
so want to turn that to Jay because he should say something. But I'm a comment. But
I don't even know what y'all talking about.
Right, see, I told you he's not focused.
I forgot. So so people think that this thing about us being chipped is a thing, and it may be, it is maybe, I know people going crazy right now. Yes, it is. Did you see? But if you think about it, we are already chipped. All of our algorithms are already recorded. Everything that we do, everything that we scroll, everything that we look at, like if you're scrolling your timeline and you pay more attention to one picture than you do another, you don't have to click it. People on social media like, I don't like anything, I don't comment. It doesn't matter. You're on there. Every scroll, that's why they have the scroll feature. Everything that you look at, how many minutes you stop and look at it. If you comment that you're happy, if you like that you're happy, your reaction is sad. If you're happy, you care, you love, like all of that stuff. Everybody that you communicate with, it's all intertwined. So, to your point about the documentary, I'm definitely going to take a look at it. But our lives are already being recorded. Like they can already clone us by our reactions and our being on social media. But that's why I was saying we got to learn to disconnect from that because it's like, I put up yesterday that I was an analog girl, and I so am. I wish I could really just completely disconnect, but I can't, because of business, and that's a whole nother conversation. We got to be mindful of how much energy we give to a one-dimensional platform when we are not living in one dimension. We're allowing ourselves to be pulled into that to make that real life, and it's not.
Right. So. That's such an interesting concept that you brought up, the idea that they chipped us without the chip. Like
it's no chip. They don't need a chip.
They
don't need a chip. Everywhere that we go.
It made you want it so bad. And like every time something new comes out, like I was looking at the craze about TikTok and how they had researchers who found out that it was run by what was it, China or something?
But it's no new research that needs to
Russia,
be done.
I'm sorry, right.
Yeah, but you can Google that and find it out.
Yeah, and they're gathering information on us, but people still, have you seen TikTok? Have you been on the thing and seen it? No, I'm good.
But that's because we're like sheep. We run to the whole herd will run. Yeah, you dangle something, the whole herd will run, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's why disconnecting is so important, because if you know what it is that, first of all, you have to know when you should disconnect. It's something your spirit will tell you, your intuition, but you got to listen, and you can't listen if everything is in your ears and at your fingertips and in your eyes. You never figure out that you need to disconnect, and so you're operating in chaos, and a lot of times it's other people's chaos. It's not even of you.
Right.
So
and I'm just thinking about how difficult it is to deal with that, and how much more difficult it has to be for kids, for young people, just because they're bombarded with these images without the wherewithal to separate the fact from the fiction, the reality from the fantasy.
Right.
So what kind of talks do you have with your son about, and I'm going to ask each of you about that, or do you have conversations with him about about separating the, like look at Jay, like, I might not ask Jay, but I'm definitely going to ask you and Carl. So let me start with you. Do you have conversations with him about that, about the stuff that he sees out there, and what he should do with it?
So I take a different approach. I talk to my son as if social media doesn't exist. So first a child or anybody has to know their power. When you know that first, nothing can take you away from that. So I'm not going to start from a one-dimensional platform to tell my son about his power. So I talk to him about his power first and just knowledge of self and knowing himself and how to move. It's just like when we send our children out into society, you don't teach them. You don't go on the street and find out what they're doing. That's not what you're supposed to do anyway. And find out what they're doing, and then teach your child your young man how to be a young man, or your daughter how to be a lady. It's at the core. It starts with you at home or whatever. We hear that all the time. But so, of course, he knows. There are pedophiles out there. There's all this and all that. But if he knows how to move before he even gets on the platform, then that's where the protection comes, because he has to be wise first. But if you throw a child on social media, or you put a phone in their hand without explaining to them, like getting them, they get to know themselves first, and they know their power, and they know, right from wrong, and they know how to use deductive reasoning, and they know about, how to be wise. Then they're a little more apt not to, dive into the latest and greatest. Of course, children are gonna, they're gonna go wayward at some point, left or right. But that will always bring them back. But if they don't know themselves and they don't know about that, then they'll be so far. Next thing you know, they meeting somebody at the mall and thinking they meeting a girl, and they meeting a grown man in the van. I mean, it sounds weird, but it happens all the time.
No, it sounds like stuff that goes on in the world. So then that's so true. That's so true. So yeah, Carl, I know you have 3 daughters, right?
Correct.
My goodness, man. Look, I'm actually. Well, I would say I used to feel like I was afraid to have daughters, just because of how the world is, and now I have more of a mentality of. And I was listening to a song. It's funny where you get inspiration from. I was listening to a song, and Jadakiss said, "If I ever had a child, I have to make sure he's the smartest." And that's what you just have to make sure, like Patrice said, make sure you're instilling them balance and understanding of self, so that when you send them out there in this crazy world, they can
maneuver,
deal with themselves, handle themselves to a certain extent, and of course they know when to come to you. But so with 3 daughters, as a father, as from a man's standpoint, like what kind of conversations do you have with your kids about not just social media, but like just the world at large?
I talk my children's head off. We talk about everything. I would consider our relationship exceptional. I think that they can come to me with anything. I think that their experiences have led them to recognize both my wife and I as advisors, as guides. They're a little older now.
How old are your girls, Carl?
So Imani will be 18 in March. Aisha just turned 16 on Friday, and Aya is 11.
Grown-ups in y'all. Well, not yet.
I mean, grown up thought processes, and Imani's doing dual enrollment. She's taking college courses and taking AP courses. And Aisha's taking AP courses. Like it's a very adult field, but they still children. So we still have those conversations, and I hope that we'll continue to have them forever. But primarily, it's about understanding, as you said, Patrice, who you are before you enter into any, third party agreement. Right, the first party is in the house, right? Like the first party is with us, and so who you are doesn't change regardless of where you go, right? But it does. And as a parent, I'm not 50, right? No offense to the 50-year-olds. But like, if I was 60, let's say, right, then maybe 15 was long enough ago that I can't quite remember what it was like to have a friend about to do something dumb, which I know is dumb, but I don't want to leave, right? I don't want to not do it. Like, if I can relate back to that moment, then I can give them something extra that I didn't have, or something that I did have for whatever reason.
Right.
And so, for me, my parents acted as advisors after a certain age. Like they recognized that a power struggle was not going to be appropriate and was not going to lead to the desired result. So you have to rest on what you've given and then allow them to kind of maneuver, and you keep them in bounds, but you let them ride the bike, right? Don't let them get in the street, but they can use the whole sidewalk, all of it, the
Right.
grass, the tree box, everything, as long as they don't fall. And when they fall, you help them get back on the bike, that's what you're doing. And eventually they done took that bike around the corner and traded it in for a car, and you ain't got no control over that thing.
Yeah.
And so once they get to that point, you have to be able to release them with confidence. That's ultimately the design of school. You get the diploma, they are releasing you with confidence into the world. You get a degree, they're releasing you with confidence into the world, that the things that they gave you will be present no matter what. Right. That no one will be able to tell you that 1 + 1 is not 2 unless they show you why.
Right. Yeah. So that connection that you have, and that you were able to build with your daughter, that's so important. Just having that open line of communication with young people. I know some young people who don't really talk to their parents, who don't have those conversations.
Right.
And in the absence of that, their brains make up whatever. So that's how.
Yeah,
and
they
I
fill
think
in the
that's
blanks.
a lot of exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the issue with every miscommunication, from racism to sexism to married people who live in the same house but don't talk about things and start to think she'll never understand this. There's no way, so I have to be deceitful and stuff because she won't. Instead of just giving her the opportunity and talking to her and trying it out and seeing she might be going through the same thing. You never know. But yeah, that lack of communication leads to the dysfunction, and like you said, they fill in the blanks. So that's so important. Yeah,
and then once your kid fill in the blank, they come and try to teach my kid
exactly
what to do.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, a kid is a baby goat, but a baby goat follows a herd, right? So until they grown-ups, they really are kids.
Exactly.
Right? Until they can make their own decisions.
There's some grown-ups that are kids.
And so, but that's the whole thing. We raising adults.
Right.
We're not raising children.
Exactly.
They're going to be adults way longer than their children.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
And this is to all you guys. Well, to y'all except Jay.
I was going to see
He might answer this one.
Yeah, so let's see.
So there, and I say this all the time. So I have a son. My son will be 15 in December.
Mm-hmm.
And I started treating him like he always told me I treated him like a grown man when he was little. Like when I found out he had allergies, I took his shirt off and I rolled him down a hill, and I was like, forget that coughing and sneezing. Like you going to cough and sneeze and still have to go to work when you get older. And he never forgot that he was like 4 or 5. So
It's a little harsh, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay though. But it's the reason.
know the
It's
law
one of the
It worked
reasons.
out. It was cool.
It's one of the reasons why he is the way he is today. Like when it was 14 degrees and people were like, "Oh my God, you let him ride his bike to school and it's so cold outside." Meanwhile, they're keeping their kids home because the classroom is cold. And I'm like, "No, we ain't doing that." So to get into my question, especially with young men, we have to start. I want you guys to speak to the mothers that baby their sons, all right? Because nobody calls them out on this. Some of the relationships are questionable. The way that some mothers raise their sons, and they a little bit too close, and they end up babying them so much that they don't have that amount of masculine energy that they need to go forth in society. You can't start to tell a young man he's about to be a man at 17. You got to start when he's 8, 9, 7. Start treating him. Look, by the time you get 13, you're already walking into manhood. I tell my son all the time, you got 2 more years left, son. That's it. You got 2 more years, and then
On paper.
On paper, yeah. On paper, you have 2 more years. You're 6 feet tall.
You're done.
You're a man.
You're done.
Like, and you have right.
That's how society's gonna see you. So
exactly.
You gotta govern yourself.
And society.
Yeah.
And so when I hear a mother say, "Oh, that's my baby," no, stop telling him that. That's not your baby. That is a man. He is a young man.
Yeah.
So I tell my son all the time, you are a man. You're already a man, right? So I want to know if you guys can speak to the women who, and they'll get offended. That's okay. Who baby their sons.
So you basically want us to get in trouble, is what you're trying
Yeah,
to.
get in trouble a little bit. Like
She said, I didn't
we
expect
gotta
you to
hold
say
each
yes.
other accountable, and we don't
But,
do that. And dancing around words is not the
That's
way to
true.
hold each other accountable. So,
Yeah.
can any of
So,
y'all
I mean,
speak to that?
I'm the only one without kids here, but I'm there's a few simple concepts there that I think people tend to overlook in that whole equation of. I don't know if babying is the right word, but that overprotective nature of the mother, the breakdown of the family structure has lent itself a lot to that. Just because there are things that boys can only get from men.
Right.
To understand what it is to be a man is as close as women can get, and not to take anything away from single mothers, because they do a lot, and they do a lot of good work in this society when it's working correctly. But there's always things typically you wind up seeing some holes in their production and their growth. Also, what you were talking about, the relationships and the closeness and things like that. Sometimes when these relationships between the mother and the father dissolve, they look at that child as another, a representation of that. So,
Right.
but that's a whole nother thing. But as for just on the question of babying the children,
But I don't think it's another thing, though. I think it all goes together. It's not another thing.
Well, it's a psychological issue that the mother's
Right.
dealing with, though, that puts her in a
That
position
leads to.
And there's a certain level that it goes to babying them and coddling them, and then there's a whole nother level that it goes to where the closeness gets weird and kind of iffy or questionable. But that's why I say it's another thing, just because that's a whole can of worms there. But yeah, I just think it boils down to needing that male influence, and that's tough to address just because depending on the situation, it might not be available and things of that nature. And you don't want to come down too hard on the woman because she's doing the best she can, but you also want to call them out and make sure it's understood that you got to do a little better, So how do you, it's tough to balance that. And so that's where I'm going to leave it. That's as much as I have for it. Me being the only one without any kids. So let's turn to these dads here and see what they got to
You
say.
have sons, Carl?
I have no sons. No.
Okay, you have daughters.
No, I have some son-in-laws eventually, though.
Okay.
I think if y'all raise some sons, that can be son-in-laws.
But you guys can speak as being men, though.
Oh no, yeah. As a father, when I look at my father, the way that he parented allowed for me to walk in his footsteps, to make errors that were safe enough for me to make, and for him to correct errors that were not, right? Like my mom would never have been able to do that. My mom could have told me, right? Like to whatever degree that she could have. And with my particular mother, I would have been in a world of trouble because she would not have been able to give me that aspect of life in any way, shape, or form, just because how she was raised and her experiences. They had a combination of things that allowed me to be a very interesting individual. And so, I think for every mom, she has to make a determination on what their child needs, not just boys, not just girls, and not just as a whole, boys and girls, but every individual child has these specific needs. It's like colostrum, right? It's like, this is your formula specifically designed for whatever.
Hold up, nigga. It was like what?
Colostrum.
Colostrum is the
Jay, so you got to break it down.
it is the breast milk that comes the first few days before the actual breast milk arrives. It's the really good stuff that
Okay.
helps a baby, a newborn, kind of get acclimated to living outside of its mother.
Okay, yeah, that shit just went over. Yeah, I was like, hold up, I couldn't follow the rest of the conversation. I was like,
Right,
hold up, I
no,
was
no,
like
what's
stuck
supposed
on
to
that
be
joint.
said.
Thank you, Carl.
No problem, brother. It's like the stage one of what you need, right? Like, but it's everything that you need, and in its totality. And so, once you identify where your child might have gaps or might have needs, then you have to find ways to address it, and that's in or outside of the house. Like if my dad couldn't address something, my dad sucked at throwing a football. We went to my uncle, who was good at throwing a football, right? Like, I'm not just going, just because you my dad, if you suck at it, then we should probably get an additional resource. Right? The same token stands with a single mom or even a single dad. Like, don't struggle through her hair doing, right, which I've done, and have her looking foolish if you could use an additional resource to get it done and to give them what they need. And so I think, you know, you baby a child, maybe a child needs babying, right? Like I know some kids that been babied and they blossomed into something amazing because of that, because of who they were, right? And then I know some kids that have been babied and blossomed into nothingness because of who they were, right? Because of what they needed. I think you have to get to really know this combination of your, you know, baby daddy or baby mother or wife or girl or whomever, you know, this DNA pool between the two of you. You have to really get to know where it lies and who needs what.
Right. So,
But y'all do got to be a little sterner on them boys, though.
Yeah, I was Gary say I hear what you saying, but I'm a little different.
punching it in the
and
face.
some of the stuff I can't even say on here, but my son,
you
my
can. We'll
son,
just get
no.
letters
He
and
said something
emails.
this morning. We talked. He was talking about something. He said, "Oh, he heard one of his friends the way they talk to a guy, the way he talked to his mom, and he was like, my mother would break me in two." And the crazy thing is, I've never put my hands on my son. Well, I've jacked him up before, but I've never beat my son. But it's that sternness.
Yeah.
That I think it's that sternness and that level of guidance that children look for, whether they're a boy or girl. That has to be in the household. That has to be part of your parenting.
There must be margins.
There must be.
You can't write all off onto the table.
And
Right,
it can't be, oh, well, no.
Yeah,
You can't operate like that.
That line is red at the end of the
Yeah.
margin.
It has
like,
to be.
It's a reason.
Yeah.
Because when they get out here, it's not gonna be a gray
no
area.
breaks.
There's no breaks.
It's no gray
Exactly,
area.
yeah, exactly.
And no breaks. Yeah.
So showing them that instead of like you said, Carl, a lot of that stuff comes from in the household. So showing them that stuff in the beginning prepares them for what they're going to run into out in the street, or it should. You should be preparing them for what it's going to be like. And if you do, if you see that they're the type of person that needs a little more help, a little extra love and stuff, you want to make sure they understand, look, I'm doing this, but it's not going to keep happening because this is not how it is out there. You know, I know you need it, but you're going to have to toughen up. You're going to have to make yourself, we'll work on it. We'll work on you having more tools in your toolbox to be able to deal with these things without folding, because that's what the important thing is. Jay, I really would like to hear your opinion on it. I don't know.
Well, what's the question?
Oh, okay. Well, let's move on. But no, I was just
I'm trying not to.
talking about young people. Patrice, you
want me to ask the question?
Yeah.
I really don't know the question.
Okay. So
What have you been doing?
here's what the question is. Can you speak as both a man, a leader, and a father to the women who either don't have or lack guidance from a man in their parenting experience, or feel like they don't need the guidance of a father in their parenting experience, and or coddle their young men? Do you have what not even maybe advice, but what piece of wisdom in your what you do as a man and as a father would you give to them and be like, you know?
You talking about like speaking specifically to women?
I'm talking about mothering. I'm a mother. But you don't have to just speak to women.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to critique women because what they got to deal with,
Right.
and so, I mean, I don't really have anything to say to women in regards to raising their children themselves because it's tough, man. But you know, just I guess scientifically speaking, you know, a male needs a male for certain types of understandings. And, you know, when you maneuvering through life, to understand certain situations as a boy, you just can't get it from your mother. Like, whether it's right or wrong, good or bad, it's not, you know, it's situation based, but it's just the perspective of a young boy, because we've been young boys. Mm-hmm. And so we've had the same vision and perspective of whatever scenario. You know, I heard an elder say at one point, I've been where you are, you've never been where I'm at.
Right.
You know, so it's like, and that was just facts.
Yeah.
And so and with women raising young men, you know, this is tough to say, but it's always going to be off because there's no man there. And so what has to be addressed is the society and the structure that normalize these broken households. Like, you know, men like, fuck women, and women are like, well, fuck men, and expecting to raise functioning children in this type of environment and society. Mm-hmm. So I don't even really think the emphasis or the energy should be pushed towards like, women or men. It's like, yo, the way this society is structured is fucking up the way we parent, and it's fucking up the way our children are becoming. It's fucking up how we are, and it's like there's a solution to our problem, and we have to recognize specifically what it is. So women are just being women. Mm-hmm. You know, women are sometimes going to coddle their children because they're nurturers by design, and they love their babies that come out of their bodies after 10 months is the most precious. So it's like, but it take a man to be there, like, stop babying this motherfucker, come on. And you need that energy. It may seem like a confrontation, but it's just balance. Mm-hmm. It's like she's going to be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And the father's going to be like, fuck no, come here, hang him upside down and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we need. It's not, so it's not, I don't really fault women. I fault society and our normalization of this fucked up infrastructure of family that we have. And then we expecting these great balanced results from our children and our communities. And you know what I'm saying? So I think, if anything, like Dave always says, to be on this show and talk about these things, to be solution-based, is that I think we need to focus on what elements of society cause this dysfunction, as opposed to be like, well, women need to do this or men need to do. It's like, yeah, and that's facts, that's true, but there's a reason why women are doing this and men are doing this, and that's where the energy and focus needs to be.
Yeah, and I think that specific finger pointing can be counterproductive as opposed to let's get together and make it better, because there's a way, you know, to approach any situation, and I think that breeds confrontation when it's like, oh, women, you gotta stop doing it, as opposed to saying, hey, let's talk about some better ways. There's even a way to say those specific things, but in a different light. And sometimes it takes that harshness, though, and so I definitely understand, Patrice, where you're coming from, because I know you probably see it so much and it gets frustrating.
Well, not that. I think, you know, I talk about this all the time. I think we need to hold each other accountable.
Yeah,
you know,
that accountability is important.
Yeah, so to Jay's point, that we do need those things, and it starts with us holding each other accountable, not finger pointing, but saying, hey, you know, it seems like you need this. I know about this brother that does this, or I know about this program that can help you do this. Not saying, oh, I know you going through a lot and you gonna beat the shit out of your child, and that's okay. But saying, hey sis, let me, you know, I've been out before, and I have and I don't vibe with nobody that does it. One of my girlfriends was actually out, and she saw a child being beat by the mother, and the father, you know, they were both going in on the child, and she stepped in, and, you know, like, hey, is this something that I can help with? you guys seem to be a little
They'd be like,
stressed
yeah,
out.
hold it down. Well, no.
You know,
I'm sorry.
not,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
but not, it was intense. But it, at the end of the day, they thanked her, and it was a different type of situation. But we have to start really stepping in. But I was listening to what Jay was saying, and I had a thought. So you talk about solutions, and we want to be solution based. So I wonder if there is, or do you guys know of any program maybe that we can share that. So I'm like picturing a room of single mothers who don't have that male influence in the household or in the lives of their children, and they seek that. Are there any programs that are literally like a group of fathers that assist single moms with,
That would be interesting. I don't know
Yeah.
if that exists. I know
Carl might know about some shit
Yeah, I
like
was
that.
gonna say I know Carl does things this, and that's a great segue into his interview. But yeah, if you have an answer to that specifically first.
I think 100 Fathers Inc.
Okay.
Frank
So
Malone.
yeah, I figured he would know.
Yeah, I think that they have made some attempts to do those types of things. It's just about the network of moms that you can get that actually do have that time, right? Like, I mean, to be real, if you're a single mom with a son, right? Like, you about to get him in Pop Warner football because you're guaranteed to have a male around him then. And you're going to hope that there's a male at the school that's going to really engage with him in a way. But, like, there's nothing that's going to keep you from having to go to work, right? Like,
Right.
Like, so when you're at work, you're not available to oversee, create, or curate any experience for your son, per se, unless it's very, 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 very intentional. And who really has the energy for that when they doing all the other things that you got to do to be responsible as a mom, as a parent, and as an adult? Like, it really is tough, right? But I think organizations like 100 Fathers Inc., I'm a certified fatherhood trainer through them as well,
So
will allow for you to find networks of people that would be willing to help. Because there are some.
yeah.
We used to run a program mentoring the children of prisoners. And like that, if the father is in jail, there are a bunch of programs like that. If the father is deceased, potentially is a few programs for that. But like, just my dad's not here. As a society, we're not worrying about that kid or about their experience or about what we can do to level that playing field at all. And ultimately, it's at the individual level. Got a cat like Jason, you know what I'm saying, that
Hey.
has 25, 30 kids that he's helped navigate from this space where nobody cares about me to understanding that there's a male role model that actually will provide me with an opportunity to grow and move forward. Show me the ropes, if you will.
You know what, Carl? Because we do a lot of very similar work, and so it's like now I'm at the age now, like where a lot of the youngins, at least 20 to like about 25, like in that age group, like they turning like 30 now, and like 31 and 29. It's like, but the point being is that I'm confident in who they are as men, like out here in the streets,
Like Carl said, send them out
because
confidently.
of our,
our
we share,
interaction,
that we have lifetimes together. Like, I've known them since they've been like very small children. Now that they're adults, it's like I feel good about like them still being like street dudes, but them having like a moral compass, and they understand values, and like you were saying, like they know the power they possess because we've had real ass talks during their development, and I've been there with them through it. So
it sounds like you're birthing Jason's sons. Because they actually have the capacity to mentor hundreds, right? Like you got 25, 30 youngins that you've graduated with confidence. You can now touch hundreds. And in 10 years, that'll be hundreds of thousands.
But didn't we play basketball at your complex? Now, do you remember we was playing with the youngins, right?
Yeah.
Because John brought his youngins, and I brought my youngins, right?
Yeah.
And you remember I like jumped up and I elbowed one of my youngins, and his nose started bleeding.
I definitely
And I
remember
took
you
my shirt
abused
off,
that
and you know what
youngin.
I'm saying?
Yep.
So we were just playing yesterday, right? And he works for the fire department now. And so we had the basketball court outside, right? And so this is the same youngin, because you remember it was a lesson in that day.
Nah, it was, because he was going too hard.
Yeah.
he
And it's
was
like,
playing
I
like
ain't
a
mean
big
to like
boy.
fuck him up like that,
Yeah.
but it's like, nigga, you better chill the fuck. Like, I'm a grown ass man. You better stop playing. But anyway.
And he was old.
Yeah.
In hindsight, like,
Yeah.
So we played yesterday, right? And it's like, but it was funny because I relied on him yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's like the reason I waited for him is because we was playing, right? And I had like a bum ass team. And I wasn't really worried about like winning or losing.
Right.
But it's
Just
like I
getting
know
right.
I can rely on his character as a man.
Yeah.
Like when you playing or you going to war.
Yeah.
Like, so it ain't really about, I didn't mind winning or losing.
Right.
But I knew because I had been training with him basically all his
Right.
life. I
Exactly.
knew what type of moral character he had in competition. I know he wouldn't quit. I know he would go hard. So it's like, I was like, damn, man. It's like that was the why as to like why you start working with a kid.
But you said it right there, training. Right? Like, it ain't just home training, right? Like, if we want men that stand up and be men,
Right.
they got to be trained to do so.
Yeah.
That's why when you go to the
Like
military, they
soldiers.
not just like, oh, you strong. You can, here go your gun.
Take
do
it,
your
right,
thing.
right.
Like,
Take this grenade.
you know what I'm saying?
Go.
Like, that would be ridiculous, right?
Right.
So, like, instead, you go through this rigorous ass jump that weeds out the weaklings, and then, you know, you send home whoever you send home, you kill whoever you kill, whatever.
Right.
You know, and then you got this group that not only is strong, but each of them is identically strong.
Right.
Right? Like, each of them has the same skill set. So now you can go, because this is all the skill set you need, you can go and destroy
Right.
anything else, right?
Win
If
the
that's
war.
what you're looking to do, right?
Yeah.
But
Teach 'em how to
by
win
the
the war.
same token, if you training, then you training, right? So the war that they going to is not necessarily for lives, but it could just be for their own,
Right.
Right.
or
Wow.
their friends.
Yeah, definitely.
Somebody has a question and it's specific, so
Okay.
can I ask?
Oh, real
That's
quick before you
fine.
do that, let me
Oh,
do this
sorry.
real quick.
Okay.
Shout out to Melissa Foster. She said, Divine Nine Fraternities, 100 Black Fathers, Inc., 100 Black Men of America all have mentorship programs that they offer. So shout out to Melissa Foster. Go ahead. I just wanted to get that because I was waiting
Awesome.
for a minute.
And I want to respond to that in a second.
Okay.
So, Renee says, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. What can be done for a young man who has grown up in a home without a father, without a dad in the home who is now 21 years old, that doesn't appear to have goals or life plans, and living at
That's
home and
tough.
has no job
That's
and not in school?
That's-
That's all, Renee?
she added some stuff to it.
I'm trying.
And by the way,
So
play
no,
games on
so he
no,
grew up
play
with
games.
no dad in the home, no
Yeah.
life goals, living at home, no job. That's a lot.
That's tough just because like everyone's been saying a lot of that understanding yourself and things comes from those formidable years when you learn that. And so when you get to the age of 21, whether you do or not, you have a certain belief. Like I feel like I was maybe 25 or 6 before I realized I don't know anything. You know, before I got out of that, I know everything and I've got this all figured out. That, you know, is so detrimental to a lot of people, especially people without guidance. But do you guys have anything for that?
Go ahead, Carl.
Well, the first thing I think is you got to find a man who's willing to dive in, to be at that stage of life where you're now saying, I'm interested in kind of fostering an opportunity for my child to grow that wasn't there before, right? Like when if like he's 21, if he was 11, then, you know, I tell him I'm a digging his shit. And he doesn't want his shit dug in, right? So that's enough, right? So now he starts to find the margin on his own because he don't want his shit dug in. Like that's the one thing he don't want, right? At 21, though, if I tell him I'm a digging his shit, he wants to see if the shit can take it.
Right.
Or he's
wants
gonna want to fight you.
He wants you to dig in.
Yeah.
If
Come
this
on
what
with
you
it.
say you're gonna do, then dig in, because actually that's the only piece of manhood that you get automatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that comes no
Exactly.
matter what, because you have the confidence in your physical attributes,
Right.
Like
right.
as a man, like that, like women have no confidence in their physical attributes. Like that's the true difference that society creates, right? Like society makes women self-conscious about who they are, no matter who they are.
Right.
Right? Like skinny girls are too skinny, fat girls are too fat,
Bruh.
shapely girls are too shapely. Like everybody is too something if you're a female, right? And on top of that, you can't go outside at night. Like, which is a whole different conversation.
Man, bruh.
But having people not able to be who they are is akin to slavery, right? So now we got kids that grow up not as who they should be.
Right. Not
Right?
even knowing.
Solely because we live in a society that promotes this fake ass bravado about what you should be as a man, but nothing else.
Right,
Like, okay, yeah, a man is going to defend his home. A man does stand up for what's right. A man also takes care of his children.
Yeah.
Like,
And-
off break, point one, point A, before anything else, before you got to be a man, you was someone being taken care of, right? And if you weren't, then that taught you something too. And so our job is to create a space where that doesn't happen, where our children don't get that. Now, your child already has that situation, so he has to have a man really dig in. Like, I mean, you know, like you gotta take a notebook, right? This is what I tell my clients. You take a notebook, you write down your issues, the problems that you want to address. And then on the other side of that page, you write down every resource that you have that is remotely associated with that. Anything that could possibly help 1%. Because if I'm working with a 50% deficit and I get to 1%, now I'm working with a 49% deficit, which means that now I'm at 51% positive, right? So if I just keep getting 1% here, 1% there, eventually I'll be at 5%. That 5% gonna become 10, but I gotta keep that positive momentum going. And so the goal right now is to find all the resources that you have at your disposal. Every man that you know that's of decent character. We got to be the best man, right? At this point, you want a man that can show him the importance of paying his bills, the importance of going to work, the importance of finding a path and creating a path, the importance of self-mastery, right? Of figuring out who you are and why you're on this place. Because you're not just here to take up space. That ain't why your mother had you, right?
Right.
Like my dad sometimes had sexist sayings, and still does. Sometimes say things that I'm like, Dad, this is 2020, you can't say that. But my dad will always tell you he didn't raise no hoe. He could have had a girl for that. So when you are a boy, somebody has to tell you that there's a difference.
Yeah.
No matter how they word it, right? That there's a difference between this man and that man. That man's not a man, right? Only a man can say that, though.
Yeah.
If a woman says it, then she hating, right? But if a man says it, he understands what the requirements are. And that's just the nature. Just like if a man speaks on a woman's abilities, right? As Jay, like you were saying, like he's actually not in a position to speak on that because she deals with things that he could never imagine. I could
Right.
never imagine thinking before I left out the house at night, right? Women are not safe in our society.
Yeah.
And we don't say anything about that. And so point A has to be a man who respects the place of women in our society, which is safe, right? Women should enjoy a safe space. They should be able to move the way that they want to move, wear what they want to wear, go where they want to go. And we don't live in that place. So how can we begin to save grown people and we can't keep children safe?
All right.
So we got to get him some help. Like we got to get him a
ASAP.
Yeah. So
Like
the,
Jay
so
said.
the, yeah. So
Yeah.
Jason's sons.
I only got 4% left, so I'm gonna turn this up. So then after you say something, I'm probably gonna die. But I'm just letting you know.
In regards to the youngin' that's 21.
I'm 21, living at home.
Well,
no
I guess
job.
I got more like a street approach to it, but it's basically the same thing Carl's saying. It's like you know, from my perspective, you just gotta find what what he has to find what his interests are,
Right.
and then be around somebody that's not a dummy. So the problem is it's a whole bunch of dummies. But if you want to fucking smoke weed, go find a smart ass nigga to tell you about weed and cultivation and you know what I'm saying, and how it's being on the stock market and shit now. Like, if you into, guns and shit, find brothers that's into guns, but not street niggas, but like,
Legally.
it's a black, like Wilson's Gun Armory people, like it's a black owned, you know what I'm saying? So it's like keeping it, so it's like whatever bullshit they on motherfucking PlayStation or the games, like find them gaming niggas that know shit about that and that could get you a job, you know what I'm saying? So it's really about being around people, and not really knocking our quote unquote lack of ability to find employment or a place in society. So I empathize with a black man who's still at home with his mom and hasn't really found a way for himself, because it's designed for him to be that way. Like, yeah, nigga, you absolutely right.
Got you.
Where they got your ass. But there are people who have bent the matrix. So it's like whatever it is, because he gotta like something, because something's keeping him from attempting or finding his way. So it's like, very similar to Carl. Like I'm not even saying the mother needs to do shit. What that nigga needs to do is he needs to figure out what he likes and what his passions are, and write that shit down on one side of the paper, and then find shit that's about that shit, whatever it is he's like, and then investigate that shit himself.
You're absolutely right. I had not factored in the fact that this a grown ass man. For real. He should be doing
Legally
that for sure.
grown.
For sure.
Yeah.
And actually, they could just go to my website and fill out a referral form.
Yeah.
And,
But there it is, right there.
helptraining.org.
Help training.
Helptraining.org.
Okay.
And since you mentioned that, let's get into this a little bit, man. You, like I said, you've been doing a lot for the city and for this area for a long time.
Now, Dave, before we get into that, on this helptraining.org thing, I'm actually giving that to her.
Okay. That's for you, Renee.
Because we don't even have a program that I could support whatever the outreach would be on this. But if she goes to that website, she fills out a referral form, myself or my partner will call her.
Okay. And that's right. HELP training.org.
That is correct.
Okay. Awesome.
Great,
Yeah, we
great.
solution based on Neighborish
Yeah,
live cast, baby.
always, definitely, and I love that we're able to, share this and share what you've been doing. Like I said, with a lot of people. Now, before
You're
we
welcome,
get too
Renee.
deep into your what you're doing right now, I want to talk to you a little bit about. For a few years ago, you were the Ward 5 representative.
Yeah.
And so, what was it that that led you to public service? That led you to even to attempt to be there? Was that your first a seat that you held, or
That was my first elected seat.
Elected seat,
That was
yeah.
my only elected seat.
Okay.
What I found from that experience was it is way more beneficial to be involved in the conversation than to be the sayer, right? Like that you actually are being pulled in multiple directions when you are an elected official, right? So every elected official that garners any level of criticism, it is because, they have a broad arm and they're doing a lot of different things, right? So they have enough to win, enough support to win, right? But they have enough detractors to say they're not doing enough of this, right?
Yeah.
So in that respect, you're being pulled in at least two directions, every one of them, right? That means that you could never fully go forward. If we could come to the table, and this is my thought on politics in general, if we could come to the table and have a conversation about what's wrong and how we fix it, it don't matter what else there is. Like, it don't matter what party you from.
Right.
Like, none of that is actually relevant if, in fact, we have solutions that we could be doing, but we can't get to because the system is broken.
So much bickering back and forth.
Exactly.
the infighting and stuff. And I'm so glad that you said it. Like, these are thoughts that I have on a regular basis. Like, looking at this whole political landscape right now and how everything is so. I was talking on here last week about how watching the town hall meetings, how nobody was like, "This is what we need to do, and here's my plan to do it." Everybody was like, "The other guy is so bad."
Yeah.
How bad is it? You know, it
There's-
was that the whole
There's
time
no
there
way
was
that
no.
you can have what should be done because everybody has competing views when really we should be
Right.
talking about what makes our society strong.
Right.
Like
What
we shouldn't
can
be
do
talking
together.
about what we want because what you want is subjected to whatever you got going on at home
Mm-hmm.
and whatever's happening in your place, your world, right? Your small microcosm of what's happening for the rest of us.
Right.
But it's
right.
not a part of what the general consensus is because there isn't one.
Right. Yeah. So a few years ago, you and your brother, right, started.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, so-
he's my brother in life.
Oh, okay. So you guys started a journey, and the goal of that journey was to help people, you know, from different walks of life be more prepared
Yeah.
for sustainable employment.
Yeah.
So I really like how your post about it kind of chronicles the steps in the process, from starting with an idea to the conversations. You even talk about the research that you did,
Yeah.
you know, and planning, and then to the point of execution. So my question is, first of all, what made that idea, like when you guys had that conversation, what was it about that idea that made you say, this is what we need to do? Like, this is what we're going to, like, to even put the time in it to start the research, to start the work, to get it all done?
Well, when I worked for the mayor, I dealt with the public directly for like the first year and a half. I was the community liaison. I handled, you know, all the issues that came from the community, right? And what I found, by and large, was people didn't have what they needed. People were not prepared for what they needed. Like, even if they had it, right, they didn't know how to use it. Like, I got the internet, but I don't know how to sign on to. I don't know. I need a password with.
Right,
like
right.
that's the type of situation at best that you have, right?
But
And
more
so,
specifically, look, I got the internet, and I know how to get on Facebook, and I know how to get on Instagram, and I know how to
but
do
I
this and
can't
that,
use it
but
to
I
apply
can't
for
get
a job,
Exactly.
right? Like, I
Exactly.
don't know how to put this knowledge that I have to good use.
Right.
And so a lot of people were ill prepared for the opportunities. You know, when we looked at where there were jobs, I would say to a guy, man, if you go to this site, you go to this work site, right? Literally, go to this work site, tell him I sent you, and he's looking for guys, right? He's
Right,
going to pay you
right.
$12 an hour to lift some bricks or whatever it is, right? Like, if you down with manual labor, this is where you can go, right? But there are other jobs on that site that if he just took a small amount of time, he could actually get a much better position
Right,
or a better paying job. And so when we started to research those types of opportunities, it was like, okay, well, heavy equipment operator, for instance, 2-day class, right? They offer it, we offer it, but they offer it at PG Community College, right? 2 days, $436, right? So if you got $500 in 2 days, you could take this class that will allow for you to make $40 an hour as a crane operator. Why would you be a laborer? You got
Right,
2 days because you're
right.
sitting at home. They probably gone now, huh?
Yeah, my phone's walking.
Yeah, it's
Well,
good.
yeah.
But
That's
they'll
fine.
see it.
I'll
We'll
take- yeah,
send her
she'll
the
go.
tape.
So yeah, like that one class, that one opportunity allows you to garner $30 to $45 an hour as a crane operator, as a backhoe operator, skid steer. You learn all that stuff in 2 sessions.
Wow.
And so now you can go to any construction site in America with this certification. You got OSHA 1, you got OSHA 2, you got this, like, you win it, right?
Right.
If that's the route you want to take, you want to go, man, fast. So everything that we offer is like short-term certification. And again, we're not actually offering certification programming right now because, I mean, COVID.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Yeah.
But there are programs that offer short-term certifications that could change your life if you find that you don't have a road or a route or a path that's already been kind of illuminated for you. You can
Right.
go down this road, and once you start down a path, there will be either reasons to get off of it or reasons to continue. Right. But if
right.
you're
It's always gonna
stagnant,
be
you'll
reasons
never
to-
have reasons to do anything but sit.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. Definitely. So I wanted to go back just real quick and talk about during the time that you were the Ward 5 representative, and I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong. My research was a little, but anyway, you developed a working relationship with Marion Berry's son, with Marion Christopher Berry, and I didn't know him personally. I know Jay.
But you knew him way before that, didn't you, Carl?
I'm a go.
Oh, okay,
that's
all
what
right.
I'm
Yeah, my
saying.
bad.
You know what I'm right. Sorry, that's why I said correct me if I'm wrong. But I know Jay knew him, and even throughout the time, from the time that I knew who he was, up until his passing, and even beyond then, I've only heard like great things about this dude. Even dealing with the demons that were brought to light, at the time of his passing and things like that. You actually wrote an amazing post. Like, it was kind of like a letter to him. It seemed like to me that's what it was, and I just wanted to know. Can you talk a little bit about his influence on you and his legacy in this area?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that one. Chris, I known Chris since '91, man.
Oh, okay. So it goes back further then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like 7th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, like I remember when he was, going through MB's thing when, when the bitch set him up.
Right.
I remember the experience, third person, right? Like I was there.
Right.
Like I
Okay.
watched it, the toll that it took on him, the person that it created, the difficulty. He was teased, man, like bullied,
Right.
like in a way that a 6 foot tall 12-year-old doesn't get, for real. But like this is larger than life. Like this is like
everywhere.
larger than anything that a 12-year-old could ever imagine could happen.
Yeah, I remember they did a skit about it on In Living Color.
And Living Color, Saturday Night Live, like it was everywhere, right? People,
Wow.
shirts, people.
Yeah.
It was crazy, right? So you see this kid that really had the world at his fingertips. He had been to Africa 3 times already when I met him. You know what I'm saying? Like this kid had the world at his fingertips, right? And in a blink of an eye, it became a scar that he wore everywhere he went. And so you would have people that, Marion Barry, yeah, woo, woo, woo. But then the exact same number of people would be like, he's a crackhead and he's, he's a bastard. And like, everybody had an opinion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they all took it out on Chris.
Wow.
And over time, he developed, because the access, like you, in that situation, you have access to anything you want. Like it ain't just that you can go to Africa.
Right. There's a balance.
You can go
to
anywhere
that.
you want.
Another side.
Like,
of that.
yeah. So if I want it, it's really at my fingertips, right?
Right.
And so when I start to feel like I gotta escape, I gotta get away, I and there's no place that I could go where this isn't present.
Right.
Right. And realistically, I can't move and have the same name
Right. Yeah.
as MB.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because I can't move the way that I would like to, I gotta just wait, right? Like that. We talked about that a lot. Like every time probably that we ever talked past 15. We talked about how things would be after, right? But on the road to that, MB wasn't taking care of himself, right? So, like, Chris didn't necessarily think MB would live forever, right? But I think by the time he passed, Chris definitely thought he had more time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was thrust into this situation. He was thrust into this moment. He was asked on Marion's deathbed if he would run.
My
fill a
goodness.
seat.
Yeah.
You know, those were heavy shoes to
Right,
fill. That was a
yeah.
heavy ask.
Yeah.
And initially, he didn't think he could, right? Like, he really didn't think so. And my good friend, A.J. Cooper, and I convinced him that was best, that it was best. It was just a year left.
Right.
It was best to spend the year concentrating on his business, on building up his personal, professional persona, his public persona, and then running for the 4-year seat after
Right.
a year.
Right.
Well, 3 days later, A.J. Cooper died.
Right. Yeah.
And so
Salute the Coop.
Yeah. We
Amen.
had Trayon White on here. He talked about that too.
yeah, so MB died. It wasn't 10 days, Jay died, right? So Jay died December 3rd. MB died November 23rd, so 10 days.
Yeah.
And we had the conversation December 1st,
Yeah.
where Chris decided he wasn't going to run, right? And so when Jay died, I was running Jay's campaign for Ward 4.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When he died, it really put, I mean, everything went to halt. And it put me in a position where I was free. It put free and heartbroken. It put Chris in a position where he was doubly heartbroken, but responsible for continuing something that he felt he had to do.
Right.
And he didn't necessarily feel like he had to do it for MB, even though he was asked. But he definitely felt a desire to fulfill this kind of obvious path, and to really be present and busy through Jay's passing.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he struggled. We struggled. Everybody struggled through that.
Yeah.
And running a campaign while also dealing with that type of grief was tough.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and then I in no way was trying to like blindside you with that or nothing like that.
No, you good,
And
bro.
I wasn't, fully versed on the level of y'all's relationship, but so. But yeah, I
that was my
appreciate you
guy,
taking
man.
the
That was
time.
my guy.
To talk about it, with us. I definitely appreciate that. And switching gears a little bit, let's talk
Please
about
switch
the
gears,
yeah. So, but thank you so much for that. I appreciate you taking the time.
Nah,
to talk
but
about
hold up, Carl.
What's up?
Yeah.
Cause, just on speaking on Chris and speaking on Jay, and what I was talking about with my youngers when we was playing basketball around your neighborhood, and like how I waited for my man because I knew his integrity. And I feel all them had that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would wait for them niggas. Like, nah, I'm going to wait for my man. And, the reason I stopped, because I also feel that way about you. You know what I'm saying? I just think you are a valuable man to the world. And, obviously, we don't even talk all of the time, but I feel connected to who you are, like your principles as a man, as a person. And I just want you to know that is extremely valuable in this society. And so I appreciate your efforts, your fatherhood, your commitment to your people. And, we've always had in-depth conversations, all of the time we've known each other. And so I kind of know your character. And I want you to understand that shit is important and it's valuable. And like, you are a nigga I will wait on. Like, nah, I'm gonna wait on Carl. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and so even the lesson, and because it was just interesting that we had that experience at your house, at your court, and you just so happened to be here, and that experience happened yesterday, and now you the guest on the show today, and we're talking about integrity and valuing men who gonna be riders, and then Jay comes up and Chris comes up and you here. So I just want you to know that energy is appreciated. And as you know, we don't even ever have to talk, but I always know, like, nah, oh, Carl, I'm gonna wait on, Carl coming. Like, that's somebody I gotta wait on. He's not just a regular, you know what I'm saying? It's like, nah, I'm gonna wait on him because I know his spirit, I know his character of a man. And it's like, if we're gonna go to war, you know, I don't mind winning or losing. I mind, like, how we fight, like, how we present ourselves. And I think you one of them people, brother.
I appreciate that, brother. You about to make me cry, man.
Man, that's high praise from Jay Son, man.
Man,
He's one of them dudes.
I was a kid when I met Jay Son, for real. Like, I mean, like let's, being realistic, man. I was 18, 19, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, John was at UDC.
Yeah, because John was 19.
Man, come on. Like, we was 18, 19.
Yeah.
Kids. You was a grown-up. Like, you was super grown.
Yeah.
Oh, man, your man old as shit. Like,
Yeah.
What's up with LeBron James here, man? How old is he? 30.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Don't look at me like that.
I'm sorry.
I just that was powerful, and I just want to say, like, we always, we talk about celebrities, and people idolize celebrities. Right now, in this moment, y'all are my celebrities. We don't value each other, especially the relationship that men have, specifically black men. You guys are warriors, you're kings, you're protectors, you're so many things. And to hear you guys talk about each other and address your brothers as such, that was powerful for me. And it take a lot for me to cry, but that really touched me. So that was powerful. And I wish you guys didn't have to fight as much as you do to be who you want to be and to be who you are innately. So that's all.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sentiment. I appreciate that.
The female energy just took a mush moment and just made it mushier.
hey, Jay, proof it.
Proof it.
No, it's cool. But we running like a long time, and we're gonna have to have you back. So I got so many questions I want to ask you.
Yeah, Carl can come back.
Yeah. Oh, he decided you're coming back. But I do want to a couple of things that I do want to ask you. Make sure I get in before we wrap up. First of all, starting it's nonprofit.
No.
Oh, it's
for profit.
No, for profit. Right.
He said no, it's for profit.
Yeah, no, but either way, starting.
You might not make no profit.
But it's for
But we plan
but
to.
you got the
at
bag
some
in your
point,
hand.
Yeah, you got the structure for profit making.
But the idea of seeing a need, and I always say this whenever we have people on, it's the difference between the type of people who see a need in their self, in their family, in their community, in their society, and say, oh, there's a need there, and then they keep on going about their business, and a person who stops and says, how can I fill that need? Like, there's a certain type of character that it takes to be that person, to try to fill that need, to see the necessity and want to fill it. And the fact that you do that is huge. Like Jay said, it's something that should be commended and needs to be commended. So I want to first of all commend you for that. I don't know how much my commendation.
It's a lot of commending.
Yeah, I said commend like 7 times. But anyway, but I also want to just
commend you.
Talk about
Again.
Just want to talk about, like, there are people out there who have that spirit but don't know, like, the steps to take. And that's why I say it was so cool how you worded your post about it, talking about all the steps that you took and kind of giving a blueprint a little bit. But what advice would you give people who have that feeling in them, like, oh, it's something, like, my area needs this, my community needs this, and I want to feel it? Like, what advice?
The first thing is invest in yourself. Like, whatever it is that you need in order to be successful at that thing, like, you got to approach it. It's your business. Like, it is your business. You know what I'm saying? Like, any notion that you have that this might go from this to that, or whatever that is, right? A to B or A to C or A to Z. Right. Whatever that is, you have to be able to create a structure that will take you there. Right. Otherwise, like, you know, let's say you were building ships, right? This olden times, as my children would say. You building ships. You got a ship that'll get from here to Richmond, right? But you need to get to Miami. You either are going to have to stop in Richmond and build another ship, or you're going to have to build a better ship that will get to Miami, right? So once you know where your goal is, then you build something that will take you there, right? You can't build something and hope it makes it. Like, it ain't going to work that way. And I think it probably took continuing to try, because I definitely thought I was going to take this Richmond boat all the way to Miami, and it was just going to make it.
Right. Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah.
When I started the company, you know, hey, man, we're going to be rich next year. Woo! Because we got this hole that we've identified, right? Like, people need jobs, but they don't have the skills for the jobs. We're going to give them the skills. We're going to charge the government. We're going to give it to them for free. We're going to be rich, and everybody going to have a job.
Right. It's a win-win.
So them first
Society
40
was
people,
like, oh yeah,
the first 40 people came through, man. We made $6,000 like, between us that we had to split, and we had staff.
Right, that you
We
had
had
to
to pay
pay.
staff. Bruh, I'm talking about $1,200 for the whole program.
Wow.
Like, everybody done got they you know, little certificate with my signature on it, and I done, you know, we done all this. We got food, we got catering. Man, listen, $1,200 for 6 months. I was like, man, this ain't what I was thinking.
Right.
And we halfway to that first year, we supposed to be rich.
Right.
But that was 6 years ago, and we still ain't rich. But we done helped a lot of people. And so in that respect, we like rich in spirit. And that,
Yeah, you wealthy. Yeah.
you know, like one thing I definitely wanted to touch on. We have an affinity for money, but we also have principles, right? So when we talk about not selling ourselves short, or you mentioned something about what you teach your son about valuing things, right? So like, we have these values that we set up, and they are often in conflict with our lives, right? Like with what we have to do, because they've created a structure that disregards our values. And so in everything that we do for ourselves, our value system has to be at the forefront in order for it to be successful, because it's for us. It's not for them. So if you build something based on their values, it will fail, because they value things that don't matter. Money doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. It's a piece of paper with white men's faces on it, right? The concept is worth, not money, right? Worth matters. So my time is worth X amount of dollars, right? Because I have to pay rent, mortgage, whatever, you know, all the bills that you have to pay, right? I'm not gonna run you through my whole life, right? But I gotta pay these things, so it costs money to do those things, right? Because I can't pay with my skill set.
Right.
But if I could, then I wouldn't need money, right? And then nobody would value money, but they would value my skill set the same way they do when they pay me, right? So in actuality, everything that we do now is a simulation. Like, everything in our society is a simulation of what it once was, of what the real thing is, right? Like, the eggs is fake, the milk is fake, which is better. I like the fake milk better, because there's no gas associated with it.
Yeah.
But it's not the actual milk that my parents had, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
a different milk. But even the milk that is the milk that my parents had is a different milk.
It's a different,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, everything is simulated, right? So, like, I remember, you know, I had an aunt that used to burn sage back in the day. I'm looking at these sage smudges, right? There was no such thing, but she burned sage. Now we got sage smudges, and I gotta watch where I buy it from. I got to come over here and buy it, right?
that's right. Nubian human.
I gotta come over to Nubian Human, and I gotta buy real sage, because there's some people that's manufacturing sage and it ain't sage, right? Because they can sell it, because they can. Because we allow it. Because we allow that fake shit to take place in our communities. We allow them to sell us fake food.
Right.
We allow them to sell us fake merchandise that won't help us, that won't keep us safe, that won't fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
So our goal is to create a structure that puts our values at the forefront, and if each one of us does that, if each one of us has in our heart, this is what I want, and this is my goal, and I put that value system at the forefront, then we never have to worry about if we buying a quality product, because this is all they do. Right?
Yeah.
They done put their heart and soul into this, right? The reason that I come here is because I know that every product in here is made by somebody that put their heart and soul into it. It's not no Target shit. This ain't no cookie cutter, right? This is what we have to do. Often. Sorry, I'm reading your message.
No, you good. No,
I done
that's cool.
stopped.
I was like, what the fuck is
I think
Carl
she-
looking at?
No, I think she was agreeing with you, but
Not even your computer.
But yeah,
nigga.
I just want to say,
Dang, that
And he was in his zone too. He was like, wait a minute,
I
what?
was in the zone.
I just want to say real quick, we don't hate Target in any way, but we'll go ahead.
Oh, no.
That's right, Dave.
I do love
Keep us
Target.
on the air.
In case you get that sponsorship. No,
I do love Target,
I'm just
man.
messing with you, dog. But no,
And
what
I
you
love
saying?
Target's story because Target, I use Target for an example for a reason. Target started like this
Oh, okay.
in Minnesota, right? Like Target was a mom and pop, small business. They went and got products. They had the products in the store. And then before you know it, they had a couple stores. And then they branched out. They had a couple more stores. And up until about 7 years ago, Target was still that same store, just all over the place, right? And so they allowed the stores to pick what they were going to put in there. They had all, you go on to Target, you say, oh, they selling this. They don't do that no more.
Yeah.
Now they got their own lines and
Corporate,
everything.
yeah,
Now they got a
yeah.
real cookie cutter that they pushing forth, and they opening up new stores, and congratulations to them. But they white, they money is long.
Yeah, we coming next though.
Nah.
Yeah.
This joint is going places,
Oh,
okay?
Yeah, they got the Baltimore location and all that. So,
Amen.
Hey.
But
That's how it started.
But yeah, I wanted to, so the last question I'm going to ask you, the question I always ask all of our guests,
Okay.
and I always enjoy the answers I get. It's always pretty introspective. If you had an opportunity to talk to a young Carl, if you could go back in the time machine, knowing everything, having all the wisdom that you've gained in your life to this point, if you could go back and talk to maybe a 13-year-old version of yourself, what would that conversation be like?
Leave
What would
them
you say to
hoes
yourself?
alone, Carl.
13-year-old, I think I did go back and tell him that. 13-year-old version of me, I would say, don't sweat the small stuff. I would say, sweat the stuff that your mother told you to sweat. I would say, pay attention more. All right, I paid attention, but I would say pay attention more because there were things happening that I should have taken advantage of. Don't be as trusting, but never change who you are. And I would tell them, don't take out a credit card. When they came to campus, I should not have said yes.
Right.
But I would tell them, slow down and enjoy it because it won't last forever.
Right.
And one day you'll wake up and you'll be 40 and not 14.
Right.
So enjoy the freedoms, the benefit of the potential is the most pressing thing I would say. The benefits of the potential that you have as a 13-year-old outweighs anything that could be going on in your life. Any negative thing, anything that you think is holding you back, any obstacle that you might see, it doesn't actually exist at 13. Right? Because it won't even be a memory at 15. So just take it and run as fast as you can toward everything you want and nothing you don't. That's what I would say.
Sound advice, man. It's
Hey, Carl, real
powerful
quick,
words.
because I know earlier you was talking about parenting and you was talking about how seeing things from the perspective of not feeling that far removed because you still can understand. And Aaron Clark says, Carl knows exactly what it's like to dumb things at 15. So I don't know what she knows about you at 15.
Uh-oh.
But she was like, yeah, he would know exactly what to tell his daughters to be like at 15.
Well,
Okay.
I've been telling them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I am thankful to have experienced life at the speed and rate that I did and still be here.
Right.
I have many friends who are not, and I'm not altogether sure that the best of us are not already gone.
Well, I don't know. 'Cause
But I'm thankful.
You and Jay are sitting here, so I don't know if they're all gone. But yeah, with that being said, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming through and sharing wisdom, man. We got to have you come back through and talk to us again. This was as insightful and just as dope as I thought it was going to be, and I appreciate you 1,000%, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely, man. I got to get out of here. So on behalf of myself, Super Dave, on behalf of Patrice Fruitfit, and DC's native son, Jay Son, and our esteemed guest, Carl Thomas, man. Thank you guys for checking out another episode of the Neighborish Livecast. We'll be back next week with the singer Carl Thomas. I think he's gonna go. No, I'm just playing. No. But
I got a secondary version.
But yeah, man, again, thank you for coming through and thank you for everything you do, brother. Y'all have a great day and a great week, and we'll see y'all next Monday. Peace.